got to know that that's the currency we're dealing with.
I think part of the problem is that we've given everybody the ability to publish, and everybody can generate content, and everybody can create their message and their brand. But I think that we don't have editors anymore. And because of that, nothing is edited per se. Mm-hmm. So we have to edit it, which means we have to filter through so much crap that, like if you've ever gone on Facebook and you see anything that says shocking or amazing, avoid it, because it isn't. It isn't. It's going to lure you to a slideshow that will break down a simple concept like opening a mustard jar into 47 slides that will just enrage you as you go along. I get sucked in whenever I see something that says, whatever happened to the cast of? And the next thing I know, I'm just enraged because I'm looking at a pickup truck commercial or something.
Right.
But there's no editors anymore. And we have so much to pick from that's not quantified or qualified that we pick what we want. And we're kind of like, it's like Lord of the Flies, but if the kids were just in a candy store and able to eat candy all day and pick what they wanted, instead of some of what they should get and some as treats. And we're just getting so narrow because if you go online, you can pick whatever is your pleasure and stay within those narrow parameters, and that's your window on the world.
Yeah.
And that's not the world. It's your window on the world.
Well, but isn't it such a tempting idea for us to, there's a reason why people who do get, and look, there's a reason I didn't get specific with the politics statements I was making earlier. You can't win making a public political statement.
You can't.
But there's a reason why on social media especially, you end up talking to the same group of people who feel exactly like you do, and you get them whipped up as they get you whipped up because it feels good for everybody to be talking about what you believe the truth to be. It's the same thing with the content that you absorb or that you take in. If I have the ability to choose whatever my content is, I'm going to choose all things I like. I'm not going to choose something that's boring and takes actual work. See, I would because I want to get better and be outside of my scope. But I think the majority of folks out there, because it's so much easier to just consume what you like and what, basically the content that agrees with your general persuasion on things, it's easier, especially now because most people consider the time they spend on their phone, the time they spend on their screens. Mark, we used to live in the land of dreams. Now we live in the land of screens. And it's kind of a wasteland in a way, but it's also probably a cultural revolution in a lot of ways. And it's going to, something like YouTube, giving that kind of platform to anyone that wants, it could be Joe Schmo nobody who wants to make a quality piece about something, and he could go viral doing that. You have that freedom today. But my larger point is, if you have the ability to control your content to only things that you care about or that you like, if you consider that your escapism, your off time from the job you truly don't like, or the responsibilities in your life that make you unhappy, of course you're going to pick things that you want to see. And it does. It puts you in a bubble where you're no longer connected to the outside world, even though we supposedly live in the most connected time ever.
I think our bubbles are too small, and I hate the fact that when I look on Facebook and I see a statement or a picture or a meme or whatever, I can tell which one of my friends did it. I can tell, because this is the guy that always does this. This is the guy that always does that. This guy always does this.
Right.
And I hate that it's become that narrow. And I think we do have the capacity to do more and to be great, but it's not what it is, because it's like, I feel like that we've lowered the bar so much that we will build a rocket. We will go to Mars. And when we go to Mars, we will open up a convenience store, a liquor store, and a nail salon. I just feel like we can do these great things, and then we just get dragged down to mediocrity, because the internet really is. It's got so much potential, but it's really, if you took off the arguments, the sex, the pet pictures, the weather, and product sales, you would have one site left, and that site would be, hey, where did all those other things go.com? And there are some jewels in there, but you have to mine for them. You really do.
You know what, though? The less bleak side of it is that now that I live in a time where I can choose whatever content I consume, I can also choose to educate myself in whatever I want to be educated in, and I don't have to go through the painstaking process of going to a library and finding a book or finding an encyclopedia and looking it up. Information literally is at our fingertips now about things that we may want to personally educate ourselves on. And now the internet has made that easier than ever to do. So if you want to become a better person, I can tell you right now, there's as much content online that could educate you, and this is somebody who spent a ridiculous amount of money, or I should say amassed an incredible amount of debt to get a master's degree. I can tell you, and I know what I'm talking about, you can find everything that I learned in school, you can find it online. And if you so chose to educate yourself like that, you'd be able to. So that's the less bleak side of it, is that, this wonderful resource out there to make you smarter, to make you better, to make you more well-rounded is at your fingertips if you can click away from the cat video and check it out and spend some time on it.
But people use that time on the internet. I think the problem is that people mistake. I think people are more educated than they've ever been, without a doubt. And they have the ability to get even more educated. But I think they've mistaken knowledge for education, education for experience. That's why we have an insecure generation that gets overwhelmed quickly because they walk into situations thinking, oh, it'll be just like it was on a YouTube video. And then all of a sudden somebody punches them in the face and they Google blood running down my eyes.
Right. Well, there's people that couldn't have had the conversations you and I have had over the past few months. I think our shorter conversations are 3 hours, And it's like there are people that you literally cannot do that with. They're afraid of it. They're afraid of just talking to another individual for that length of time.
Right, and they can't. Or if they do talk, they have to have a rigid structure, and they don't know how to just kind of freeform and see where it goes. And a conversation done right can nourish itself, and it can be a good thing. I think that people need to sit down and talk more without the fixation on the media and not discuss hot topics. Just discuss life and sit down with somebody and ask them, what have you been up to? What are you doing? Don't be ashamed to ask somebody if you're eating with them or something. Hey, you put the phone away for a couple minutes. And just communicate and have a full duplex communication back and forth. Not this. These devices are training us to communicate the way they do.
Well, it's like dog treats, only in this case it's a little dopamine blast in your brain, because if I look at you for 5 minutes straight and I don't look away, I am completely engaged with you and concentrating on you. But this thing calls from my pocket. This little come on, you need another blast, right? You need another dopamine blast. Come, just look at it. How many texts did you receive? Did somebody like what your post? What happened with this ridiculous news in the world? And it calls to you. And I'm at the point where people of a younger generation than me that are doing it, as soon as they do it, I don't get mean with them. I just stop talking. Right. And when they notice my silence, they look back up and they're like, oh no, I can hear you. And I say, I'll wait.
Yeah.
Clearly what you're doing is important. I don't say this part, but it's implied. Clearly what you're doing is more important than the conversation, so I'm going to wait for you to finish it, and then we can get back to conversing. And it's not that they're trying to be rude, but they have been trained, like you said, in that dog treat way with these dopamine blasts that they don't have the discipline not to do it. They don't even view it as being rude anymore.
They're never present. I remember I tell stories in the checkout line, and the guy's on his phone. And I'm waiting, and he finally grabs my stuff, and he's scanning and messing up and everything. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm multitasking. I said, no, you're doing two things poorly. There's a difference.
I like that a lot.
There's a difference. And we've gone from hieroglyphics to emojis. Which are hieroglyphics. We're back to hieroglyphics. We're back to communicating with icons. And I pretty much, and I can't enforce it fully, but I have a no emoji in text icon other than a thumbs up. It's the only.
I'll do a wink, I'll do a smile, and that's about it. my parents, I actually laugh because they they actually had smartphones before I did, which tells you how much I resisted the tech movement. But my parents are like, they become emoji ninjas. They're like emoji wizards.
Oh, the people that use them, it's like, what are you saying? There's a dog, a rain cloud, a star, and 2 exclamation points. I don't know what you're saying.
But I'll be honest, it makes me happy. When my mom sends me the unicorn blowing kisses out of its mouth, it's like, I like it. So there's a fun aspect to it too. But yeah, if we really got to the point where everybody was talking by sending nothing more than emojis to each other, that's I think, apocalyptic.
I think it's created this on-demand thing too, where my father claims it began with the old TV dinner that you'd heat in an oven. Mm-hmm. That once that you broke it down, that the family did not have to eat at the same time. You started to destroy its connectivity. And what happens is now people can send a message. I can send you a message when I feel like it.
Right. And
there's this implicit almost demand that you respond and you be ready for that message. And where are you? And there's no way to stop these conversations. There's no clear hang up like there is on the phone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bad part of it. I think text used the way it's meant to be used, and I always thought text was meant to be used for short conversations, running late, get milk, at door, blah, 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 and stuff like that. I know people that have had 8-year text conversations with people. It's just amazing to me.
I mean, I love texting in the sense that I can very quickly talk to a lot of people at once. Like the stuff that we work on, I'm sure you probably have to do it with your team sometimes too. Like where everybody's on the same thread and you're all able to just shoot an idea, a random thought here and there. In that way, texting's great. But in another way, you're right. There's no structure to text like there is to Twitter even. At least Twitter, you've only got your 140 characters. And, you've got to say whatever nonsense you're going to say in the 140 characters. But at least there's a rule, there's a parameter. With texting, if you chose to only text and never actually physically speak to someone, you could do that, give everybody else the impression of an illusion that you're around, but you're not really around anymore because you haven't talked to anybody in weeks.
Well, that's the problem in a nutshell, is that nobody realizes, and I don't know if you have rules of thumb for this, I have loose rules that after this many texts, we need to do an email. After this many emails, we need to do a phone call.
Yeah.
We just can't keep bouncing back and forth.
In my experience with you, it's the first messenger conversation is a sentence or a question. If the answer is more than 2 sentences back, the next response from Mark is, are you free for a call? Because you're done at that point typing this back and forth. And I think that's actually a pretty good point to call and say, well, obviously you've got more than 2 lines to say to me, so let's talk.
Right, and it's a deeper question. It's not a 2 + 2 = 4 question. It's what is 4 and why do I need it?
And now you're back to philosophy.
We went full circle. But I think it's a good place to end, full circle.
Well, there you go. We'll leave it at full circle.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Mark, and thank you, Russell. I appreciate being on the show, and hopefully we do it again sometime.
And hopefully the audio rocks.
I'm sure it will. And I am an audio expert. Let me tell you, just listen to our podcast. That's a wink to our teat audience who knows we're still working on getting the audio up to stuff.
Being a little sarcastic there. Just a
tad.
Little bit. Tribute to them.